You know that feeling. When you open a closet, maybe a drawer, and it's just, well, it's too much.
Oh, yeah, like you're swimming in stuff.
Exactly. Just wading through this sea of possessions. And even with all that stuff, you still sort of feel like something's missing.
Mm-hmm. Mm. It's a strange paradox, isn't it?
It really is. And if you're like a lot of us, constantly seeing messages to buy more, get the next thing,
Hmm.
and if you, our listener, are maybe looking for a more intentional way to live,
Yeah.
then let's get right into it.
It's interesting that feeling of being overwhelmed by possessions. It seems almost typical of modern life.
Yeah,
It's not just the physical clutter either, is it? It's the mental weight that comes with it.
totally. And that's really the focus of our deep dive today,
Huh?
this whole concept of minimalism. We're going to be digging into Heidi Wren's book, Pure Simplicity, The Art of Minimalism,
Oh, good one. Yeah.
to really understand what it's all about and, how it might offer a path towards that intentionality you might be looking for.
Wren's book, it gives a really broad view, doesn't it? It goes way beyond just, clearing out your house.
It really does. And our goal here isn't just to, like, summarize the book chapter by chapter. It's more about pulling out those core ideas, the key principles, those insights that can help you decide if minimalism, or maybe parts of it, could fit into your life.
Right. And how that might look for you specifically.
And let's be super clear right up front. This isn't about deprivation. It's not some, super strict bare bones lifestyle unless you want it to be.
No, it's much more about making deliberate choices, conscious decisions.
Yeah, about what you hold on to, what you let go of. So you can actually focus on what brings you real value.
Which, prompts a good first question for anyone listening. What does value actually mean to you? And are your possessions, your habits, really lined up with that?
That's a great point. Wren's book, it really does cover a lot. We're looking at everything from the basic ideas behind minimalism,
The foundations.
right, to how you can apply it practically. In your home, sure, but also your spending habits, your clothes, even your approach to food, travel, work.
Even digital life, right? Which is huge these days.
Absolutely, digital clutter is definitely a thing. So, yeah, get ready for a deep dive into pure simplicity.
One of the first things that really jumps out from Wren's writing is how she positions minimalism. It's not just a trend.
No.
It's framed more as a conscious choice, a pushback against that constant drumbeat of consumer culture.
Okay, yeah, so chapter one really sets that stage, defining minimalism. Wren points out how society often makes us feel like success, or even just fitting in, is tied to how much we own.
Hmm. Leading to these lives that feel incredibly full, but maybe full in a draining way.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Busy, chaotic sometimes. And it seems, like Wren mentions from her own experience in the introduction, that feeling totally overwhelmed is often the spark, the thing that makes people start looking into minimalism in the first place.
That overwhelm is like a signal, isn't it? A powerful one. Wren argues that at its core, minimalism is about intentionally curating your life.
Curating. Interesting word choice.
Yeah, like choosing carefully, keeping only what you genuinely need or what actively adds value or helps you reach your, meaningful goals.
And Wren lays out some really key principles for this. First, it's about consciously resisting that constant pressure, the pressure to consume more and more.
Right. Choosing to appreciate a simpler, less cluttered life instead.
Then, and this seems crucial, it's about setting clear priorities, like actively deciding what's truly important to you.
Your career, your relationships, your health, things like that.
Yeah, exactly. And letting those priorities guide your decisions, how you spend your time, what you bring into your life.
And Wren gives some great examples of how this actually plays out, like
Yeah.
maybe choosing to spend money on travel and experience instead of the newest phone.
Right, or prioritizing focused time with your family over, say, another random night out.
Yeah, it forces you to really ask yourself, what do I really value here?
Exactly. She also really emphasizes how important physical and mental health are in this minimalist mindset.
Oh, definitely.
It's understanding that your well-being is kind of the foundation for happiness, for
Yeah.
your ability to focus on what matters.
Which makes sense. If you're run down or stressed out, it's hard to appreciate simplicity, right?
Totally. So this could look like making time for exercise or cooking healthy meals at home instead of always grabbing takeout, or maybe incorporating things like meditation or just finding moments for self-care.
It's all connected. By simplifying the outside stuff, you free up energy, headspace to invest in yourself.
Yeah. And another big principle Wren talks about is freeing yourself from that that constant desire to own more.
Breaking the cycle.
Right, breaking that consumerism cycle and finding contentment with what you actually have. And I thought her point about quality over quantity was really insightful.
That's a classic minimalist idea.
Yeah, it's not about always buying the cheapest thing. It's more about investing in things that are well made, things that will last, which often is better for the environment too.
Win-win.
She even extends this idea to relationships, you know, prioritizing deeper connections with a few people over having tons of superficial acquaintances.
That quality principle, it really applies across the board, doesn't it? Not just to stuff, but to how you spend your time, your energy. It's about being intentional everywhere.
And Wren really makes a point of saying that minimalism isn't some, like, extreme, unattainable thing.
Right. It's not just for monks living on a mountaintop.
Exactly. She stresses that it's achievable for everyone, and even just making small changes, taking small steps, can lead to feeling more in control, more at peace.
So maybe a question for you listening is, what's one small area where you could choose quality over quantity starting today?
Now, Wren also clears up some common misconceptions about minimalism in Chapter 1, which I think is really helpful.
Yeah, what it isn't. That's important too.
Definitely. Like, it's not about depriving yourself of all nice things. Minimalists often actually choose to buy higher quality, longer lasting items.
Like the slow fashion versus fast fashion idea, or buying a durable appliance that won't break in a year.
Exactly. It absolutely doesn't mean you can never buy anything new again.
Right.
Wren is clear. Buying new things is fine if they serve a real purpose or help you achieve a specific goal.
It's that difference between conscious buying and just mindless consumption, right? That's key.
Totally. And crucially, she points out that becoming minimalist doesn't automatically mean you have to trash everything you own.
No huge dramatic purge necessary unless you want one.
Right. It's about figuring out what feels impractical or doesn't serve a purpose for you right now in your life. She even says some people who weren't big consumers to begin with might already be living pretty minimally without needing a massive declutter.
Because it's personal. It has to be tailored to your own needs, your own values. It's not a cookie cutter approach.
Then finally, in that first chapter, Wren talks about the benefits, and they sound pretty compelling.
Yeah, the payoffs.
Think about having more space, obviously, physically in your home, but also more mental space. Less stuff to manage, less to worry about.
Which frees up energy, time.
Yeah, frees up energy and time for your passions, for people you care about. She also mentions the financial benefits, which are pretty obvious,
Less buying means more saving, or more money for things that really matter to you.
like those experiences she mentioned, like vacations or learning something new.
So minimalism can be seen as a way to reclaim your resources, time, energy, money, and point them towards what you actually prioritize.
And Wren also talks about getting a bigger sense of control, which feels important today.
In a world that's constantly telling you what you should want,
Exactly. Minimalism gives you the power back, helps you find fulfillment from inside, not just from buying stuff. And maybe most importantly, she talks about better mental well-being.
less clutter, less stress.
Yeah, decluttering your space, decluttering your mind can lead to more peace, less anxiety.
That sense of inner calm, that clarity, it's a recurring theme in Wren's book. Simplifying the outside world really does seem to help calm the inside world.
Okay, so let's shift gears a bit. Chapter 2 is where Wren really shows us that minimalism isn't just one thing. It's not monolithic.
Right, it's flexible, it's personal.
Exactly. She introduces this whole range of different styles of minimalism. It's actually fascinating.
It really opens your eyes to how varied it can be. It's not just stark white rooms.
Not at all. She starts with the aesthetic minimalist. Their main focus is visual appeal.
So clean lines, neutral colors, not much visual noise.
Right. But Wren points out it's not necessarily about having the fewest things, but about arranging what you have to create that specific look, that visual harmony. Then you've got the nomadic minimalist.
Living out of a suitcase, basically.
Pretty much. Very few possessions, because they travel a lot, maybe don't have a fixed home base. It challenges that whole idea of settling down and accumulating loads of stuff.
Yeah, definitely a different approach to home.
Then Wren describes the eco-friendly minimalist. For them, sustainability is the top priority.
So thinking about ethical brands, recycling, minimizing waste.
Exactly. Their choices are really driven by environmental impact. Then there's the frugal minimalist. Their main driver is money.
Saving money, living below their means, sticking to
Right.
necessities.
And then on the other end of the spectrum, you have the extreme minimalist.
The 100 items or less kind of person?
Yeah, sometimes even less. Fitting everything they own into a backpack. It's about owning the absolute bare minimum.
Which really makes you think, doesn't it? What do we actually need? It prompts that question, what are your main reasons for even considering minimalism? Aesthetics, mobility, ethics, money, something else.
Good question. And it gets even more diverse. Wren includes the homesteading minimalist.
Interesting. How does that fit?
Well, they aim for self-sufficiency. Growing food, maybe living off-grid. They might actually own a lot of tools.
Oh, right, for self-reliance.
Exactly. But the goal is still simplicity and self-reliance, not consumerism. Then there's the boho minimalist.
Okay, I can picture that. Earthy, maybe?
Yeah, fewer possessions, but with that distinct bohemian earthy vibe. It shows how different values can still fit under the minimalism umbrella.
It really does. Self-reliance for the homesteader, a specific aesthetic for the boho type.
Wren also talks about the moderate minimalist. It sounds pretty practical. Someone looking for balance,
Not too extreme, just fewer possessions, more convenience.
pretty much. Then there's the fancy minimalist.
Ooh, intriguing. What's that?
Fewer items, but really high quality, maybe more expensive things. Prioritizing exceptional quality and longevity over quantity.
So the opposite of fast fashion, basically. Investing in pieces that last.
Exactly. And finally, the mindful minimalist. Their focus is more internal.
The mental side of things.
Yeah, using intentional choices, maybe journaling, self-reflection, all to cultivate a simpler mental space.
That brings those internal benefits we talked about earlier right to the forefront.
So with all these different styles, how do you figure out what's right for you?
Yeah, how do you choose? Or combine them?
Wren says it comes down to self-reflection, really thinking about your own motivations, your core values, what you actually hope to get out of being more minimalist.
So know your why.
Exactly. And she stresses it's totally okay, actually encouraged to create your own style. Mix and match, draw inspiration from different places. Ultimately, she says, it's about the mindset, not following strict rules.
That personalization is so important. It's about creating a life that feels simple and right for you, aligned with your values.
Okay, let's turn inward now. Chapter 3 of Pure Simplicity moves from our stuff to our minds, exploring this idea of a clutter-free mind.
Just as important as a clutter-free house, maybe even more so.
Right. It's a great reminder that our internal world can get just as messy as our external one.
Definitely needs attention too.
Wren explains how mental clutter, all those thoughts buzzing around, often unnecessary ones, can really mess with our focus, impact our well-being, even drag down our productivity.
Think about it. How often do you find your mind just racing? Makes it hard to just be present, doesn't it?
Totally. And she talks about the benefits of clearing that out, like potentially sleeping better,
Makes sense. Less worry, better sleep.
less stress, maybe even fewer depressive feelings. When you let go of negative thought loops, there's more space for positivity
Yeah.
and just feeling more conscious, more present.
Engaged in what you're actually doing rather than lost in thought.
Yeah, living more intentionally, not just reacting or ruminating all the time.
Okay, so how do we actually do that? How do we declutter the mind?
Well, Wren offers some really practical, pretty easy ways to get started. Journaling is a big one.
Getting it out of your head and onto paper.
Exactly. Exploring thoughts, organizing them, releasing emotions. She even suggests, if you're new to it, just start by listing your thoughts, whatever comes up.
Just the act of writing it down can make it feel less overwhelming, more manageable.
For sure. Then physical exercise, another really effective way.
Moving your body to clear your head.
Yeah. Wren points out how it helps release tension, gives you time with your thoughts, but in a different way, especially if you're outside in nature. Good for sleep, good for mood.
Makes sense.
Then there's the advice to stop multitasking, which sounds simple, but
It's hard. We all try to do it.
we do. But Wren explains it actually splits our focus, ramps up stress, and adds to mental clutter because you're juggling too many things. Focusing on one thing at a time apparently brings a lot more peace and clarity.
Better focus, less mental strain. I can see that.
She also really stresses dealing with negative thinking actively.
Not just letting it run wild.
Right. Identifying those patterns, those negative thoughts that keep coming back, and consciously trying to reframe them. Using positive affirmations, focusing on constructive thoughts instead. Our beliefs shape our reality, right?
So changing your thoughts can change your outlook.
That's the idea. And then being more decisive.
Oh, interesting. How does that help?
Well, putting off decisions, even small ones, Lets them just hang around in your mind, taking up space. Mental clutter. Wren suggests making decisions more promptly frees up that mental energy.
Reduces that load of unresolved stuff. Okay.
Yeah, meditation is another key one Wren mentions. For self-awareness, for focus.
Lots of ways to meditate, though.
True. And she thoughtfully suggests different approaches, like visual learners might like guided imagery or focusing on an object. Auditory learners, maybe relaxing music or chanting. Kinesthetic learners, walking meditation or focusing on breathing.
Tailoring it to how you learn makes it feel more accessible, doesn't it?
Definitely. And finally, mindfulness. Just being present.
In the moment, without judgment.
Yeah. She gives lovely examples like really immersing yourself in nature, feeling the sensation of floating in water, or mindfully drinking your tea or coffee, paying attention to the taste, the warmth, everything.
That intentional focus on now, it quiets the chatter, helps you appreciate the simple things.
Okay, let's bring it back to the physical world. Chapter 4. Decluttering the home. Wren makes a strong case for why clearing out the physical stuff really pays off.
That link between our space and our well-being again, it's powerful.
For sure. The obvious benefit is more space, right? But she also emphasizes how a tidy home can boost productivity, creativity, fewer distractions,
Less visual noise.
and maybe the biggest one, reducing stress. Wren actually mentions research showing clutter can literally make it harder to focus and can even raise stress hormones.
Wow. So it's not just in our heads.
Apparently not. Plus, less clutter often means less dust, maybe fewer allergens.
So physical health benefits too.
Could be. And practical stuff too, like finding things easily when your home isn't overflowing.
Yeah.
And she brings up fostering gratitude.
How so?
When you have less, you often appreciate what you do have more.
That shift from wanting more to appreciating what is, that's very minimalist.
So for anyone feeling overwhelmed by the idea of decluttering, Wren has some great tips to make it easier.
Like breaking it down.
Exactly. Creating a timetable, setting realistic goals, tackling one room or even just one corner at a time. She gives an example schedule. Bedrooms, kitchen, bathrooms, living room, garage, wardrobe, toys.
Makes a huge task feel doable, step by step.
Another clever tip? Take pictures, before and after shots for motivation.
Oh, I like that. See your progress.
Yeah. And she also suggests taking photos of sentimental items you're ready to let go of. Keep the memory, not the object.
That's a compassionate approach. Acknowledges the emotion tied to things.
She also suggests getting help. Friends, family, someone experienced in minimalism. Get an objective view, some support.
Good idea. It's hard to be objective about your own stuff sometimes.
True. And having good storage solutions is important, especially in small spaces. Using space wisely. Under the bed, smart shelving, etc. And finally, she says, plan what to do with this stuff. Donate, recycle, sell before you start decluttering.
So it actually leaves the house, doesn't just get moved around.
Exactly. Proactive planning. Okay, Chapter 5 moves on to shopping. How we buy things. Wren starts by pointing out how that happiness rush from impulse buys, it doesn't last.
Yeah, temporary high. Yeah.
So she introduces intentional minimalist shopping as the alternative, more fulfilling.
Moving from that reactive, gotta have it feeling, to conscious, value-based choices.
And she explains why this is better. It can actually lead to more lasting good feelings because you're choosing things you genuinely value and need.
Surrounding yourself with things you actually use and appreciate.
Plus, it often leads to living more sustainably, more ethically, avoiding fast fashion, maybe thinking about where things come from.
Connects back to that eco-friendly style, considering the impact of our choices.
So how do we actually shop like a minimalist? Wren gives practical advice. First, take more time, way more time.
Sleep on it, make a list.
Yeah, create a needs list before you shop. Really think about the purpose, how long it will last. Resist the impulse buy. She even suggests staying off shopping apps entirely.
Reduce the temptation at the source. That's bold, but probably effective.
Could be. Another big one. Don't go into debt for stuff you don't need.
Live within your means. Only buy what you can actually afford. Seems basic, but...
It's easy to slip. She also says, do your research. Check reviews, compare prices, see if the company's values match yours, ethical production, sustainability, etc.
Being an informed, values-driven consumer.
Right. And finally, she suggests challenging yourself with a no-spend period.
Like a spending fast.
Kind of. Set a time, maybe a month where you don't buy any non-essentials.
Yeah.
Cook at home instead of eating out. Don't buy clothes for 3 months, things like that.
That could be really revealing about your habits, couldn't it? Help you reevaluate what's truly necessary.
Definitely seems like a good way to reset. Okay, Chapter 6, clothes. our wardrobes.
Ah, the classic closet full of clothes, nothing to wear problem.
Exactly. Wren tackles that head on. She talks about the benefits of a minimalist wardrobe.
Which counterintuitively can actually make getting dressed easier,
Right.
right?
That's the idea. She said it helps you find your real style, not just chase trends. You end up with a less cluttered wardrobe, which means less time deciding what to wear.
Especially if you choose versatile pieces, maybe more neutrals. Easier to mix and match.
For sure. And because you're buying less and more intentionally, you spend less time shopping overall.
Shifting from quantity to a curated collection you actually love and use.
So how do you do it? First, Wren says, figure out your style. Explore, experiment, but focus on what makes you feel good and confident.
Know yourself.
Then, prioritize quality over quantity. Big time. Invest in well-made, sustainable items that will last, not cheap stuff that falls apart.
Quality, timelessness, personal style, that seems to be the foundation.
And focus on simplicity. Timeless styles, not overly complicated designs that will look dated quickly.
Makes sense. Build a core wardrobe.
Yeah, and she gives examples of those core items. For women,
Hmm.
versatile, neutral tops, functional bottoms, maybe a classic dress, simple outerwear, comfy shoes, classic accessories.
Things that work together.
For men, basic neutral tops, simple, good quality trousers or jeans, essential outerwear like a good jacket or suit, versatile shoes, practical accessories. The key is always versatility, mix and match potential.
Building a functional, adaptable wardrobe with fewer, better pieces.
Okay, let's head to the kitchen. Chapter 7, Applying Minimalism to Food and Diet.
Interesting. How does less is more work with food?
It's about bringing that same simplicity, intention, and awareness to how we eat and cook.
Okay, so what does that look like?
Wren says a minimalist diet often involves cooking easy meals you enjoy, maybe batch cooking to save time.
Makes sense. Less stress during the week.
Thinking about packaging, avoiding excessive plastic often means less processed food too. Using simple, versatile seasonings, decluttering the kitchen, getting rid of gadgets you never use.
The unused bread maker hiding in the back of the cupboard.
Exactly. And taking it easy, not getting overly stressed about strict diets. Maybe prepping meals to save time and avoid impulsive takeout orders.
Sounds like a mindful, less wasteful approach to food. Healthy, too.
Yeah, it aligns with health and eco-consciousness. Wren also really highlights eating more locally sourced foods.
Farmers markets and things like that.
Yeah. Benefits for the local economy, fresher food, potentially more nutrients, trying new seasonal things, and less environmental impact from transport and packaging.
Connects you more to your food and community. I like that.
Then she touches on a few diets that naturally align with minimalist ideas.
Like what?
Plant-based diets focus on whole foods, sustainability, intuitive eating simplicity by listening to your body's hunger cues, anti-diet approach. Intermittent fasting simplifies when you eat, saves time. And mindful eating, really paying attention to the experience of eating, appreciating the food.
Different paths, but all emphasizing simplicity, intention, awareness.
Exactly. And of course, the crucial disclaimer, always talk to your doctor before making big diet changes.
Absolutely. Good point.
All right, Chapter 8, Travel. Minimalist travel.
Packing light, stressing less.
That's the core idea. Wren introduces it as a way to cut down pre-trip anxiety and actually make the travel experience better.
By bringing less, you experience more of the place.
That's the claim. She gives reasons.
Yeah.
Less packing stress, obviously. A richer experience because you're less focused on your stuff and more on where you are.
Easier to get around airports, too.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Less chance of lost luggage. More freedom from having too many choices about what to wear or lug around.
It's with that nomadic style, mobility, freedom.
So how do you pack like a minimalist?
Yeah.
Wren has strategies. First, mindset shift. Believe you can manage with less.
Don't pack for every single what if.
Right. Prepare reasonably for likely needs, not every worst-case scenario. Consider buying or renting bulky things at your destination. Try not to buy new stuff just for the trip. Use what you have.
Use a smaller bag as a challenge.
Good one, yeah. Pack with a smaller bag. Choose versatile clothes you can mix and match. Plan for laundry.
Shifting from what if I need it
Yeah.
to how can I be resourceful?
Okay, Chapter 9. The workspace. Getting organized, whether at home or in the office.
Because our work environment affects our focus, right?
Uh-huh.
Our productivity.
Hugely. Wren explains how an organized space helps. Avoid procrastination, manage time better because you can find things, makes a good impression, boosts your own sense of control and order.
The same principles as home decluttering, but maybe even more critical for work.
Probably. So how to do it? Wren suggests empty the space first, then only put back what's essential for work.
Start fresh.
Manage those cables, Tangled cords are visual clutter. Try not to eat at your desk, keeps it clean. And don't forget the digital workspace.
Emails, files, that can get messy too.
Yeah, delete unnecessary emails and files regularly. Keep it efficient. She also briefly mentions creating a small creative or meditation spot in your home workspace.
A little oasis for well-being. Nice idea.
Yeah, helps with well-being and productivity. Taking a holistic view of the workspace, physical, digital, mental.
Makes sense.
And finally, Chapter 10, Our Digital Lives, which can feel pretty overwhelming these days.
Oh yeah, constant notifications, endless scrolling.
Exactly. Wren introduces digital minimalism as a way to find a healthier balance with technology.
Because it's useful, but it can also be a huge source of stress and distraction.
Totally. She explains why minimizing digital engagement matters. Eliminate distractions, improve focus, can even speed up your devices, lower stress from constant pings and social media pressure, maybe even improve privacy.
Connects back to mental clutter again.
Yeah.
Our digital habits feed into that.
Big time. So practical tips. Limit screen time intentionally. Delete apps you don't really use.
The one's just sitting there.
Yeah. Turn off non-essential notifications. Be concise and thoughtful in emails and messages. Filter your feeds, unsubscribe from stuff you don't want, and back up your data.
Actionable steps to regain control over tech.
But she also acknowledges the challenges, like FOMO, fear of missing out when you disconnect,
That's real.
are reliant on tech for banking, communication, how interconnected everything is online.
It's complex navigating minimalism in such a digital world.
Definitely. Okay, so we have covered a lot from Heidi Wren's Pure Simplicity.
We really have.
And the big takeaway, I think, isn't about hitting some magic number of items or following strict rules.
No, it's much more personal than that.
It's a journey, right? About intentionality, about consciously looking at what's in your life, things, habits, even thoughts, and asking, does this serve me? Does this add value?
And if not, having the courage to let it go, to make space.
Exactly, making space for what truly matters. And Wren's book shows how widely these ideas can apply. Not just closets, but shopping, food, travel, work, digital life, everything.
It really permeates all aspects if you let it.
So for you listening, maybe take a moment. Which of these areas really struck a chord? Where does minimalism feel like it could make the biggest difference for you right now?
Wren actually includes a minimalist decluttering checklist in the book, which might be a good practical starting point if you're thinking about physical clutter.
Oh yeah, good reminder. Maybe check that out if something sparked your interest there.
Which leads us to our final thought for you today. Considering everything we've discussed, all this potential for simplification, what is one specific thing, maybe physical, maybe digital, maybe mental, that you feel most drawn to declutter or minimize in your life right now?
And maybe just as importantly, what do you imagine clearing that away might free up for you? Time, energy, focus, peace of mind.
Something to ponder. Maybe explore that specific area a bit more if it caught your attention.
Thank you so much for joining us for this deep dive into pure simplicity. We really hope it's given you some useful insights, maybe some inspiration for bringing a bit more intentional simplicity into your own life.